Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we are really cracking open the strategic blueprint for, well, one of the most high-stakes operational shifts happening right now. Pharmaceutical digital transformation. We've got a stack of pretty serious source material here, and the headline that just jumps out is this paradox. Pharma companies are pouring in staggering amounts of money, hundreds of millions globally. Yet the data shows, it's stark, 60% of these digital initiatives fail to deliver what they promised.
Yeah, 60% is huge.
And it seems like it's not really a failure of the tech itself, is it? It's more about the execution, the strategy behind it.
Exactly right. The vision, the what, is usually pretty sound. But the implementation plan, the how, it's often fragmented, it lacks discipline.
Okay.
So our mission today, for you listening, is really your shortcut to understanding that how. It's the playbook you absolutely need to turn digital ambition and pharma into results you can actually measure.
And doing that while navigating all the regulations.
Oh, absolutely. That regulatory piece makes this industry unique. So the documents, they really boil it down to 4 non-negotiables. Think of these as the mandatory pillars for success.
That's great.
First, integrated road mapping. This means every single digital goal has to be visibly, directly linked to financial KPIs and those critical regulatory milestones. No exceptions.
So you're saying it's not just about cool new tech, it's tech that serves the bottom line and meets compliance needs. Got it.
Precisely. Number 2, governance and oversight. This isn't just, another committee meeting. It means setting up dedicated cross-functional teams, I often call it a digital transformation office, a DTO, and crucially, giving them real decision-making power to cut through the usual organizational silos.
Right, breaking down those barriers.
Third is value realization. This is where the rubber meets the road. You move past just feeling good about a project. You need rigorous tracking of the benefits, continuous measurement of the ROI. Are we actually getting what we paid for?
And the fourth piece. Sounds like the people side.
It absolutely is. Change leadership. That's the 4th pillar. You need sustained vocal sponsorship from the very top, the CEO, the executive team, and really transparent communication all the way down. Without that, people just won't adopt the new ways of working and all that investment. It just becomes expensive shelfware.
Let's just pause on the sheer scale we're talking about. Global spending on pharma digital transformation. The estimate is $18.6 billion by 2025.
Billion. With a B.
Yeah, that's a colossal amount of capital. And with that kind of money and risk involved, you just can't wing it. You need a really structured framework, something that dictates where every dollar goes and, more importantly, why.
And what's fascinating in the sources is how the strategy gets broken down. It uses that classic framework, people, process, technology, or PPT, but it's heavily tailored for pharma's compliance-heavy world.
Okay, PPT, how does that apply here specifically?
So on the people side, it's more than just hiring a chief digital officer, right? You need specialized roles. Project managers who truly understand regulatory risk, and this is key, change management specialists. They're the ones who handle the human side, getting people on board.
An adoption piece again.
Always. For process, you need systematic, strategic assessments, yes, but also governance frameworks that align perfectly with GXP regulatory requirements.
Okay, hang on. GXP, let's just quickly unpack that for anyone not deep in pharma.
Sure. GXP is basically the umbrella term for good practices. So good manufacturing practice, good clinical practice, good laboratory practice. These are the globally mandated quality standards. They ensure drug safety, efficacy, data integrity, everything.
So any new digital process has to meet those standards.
Has to. If your shiny new digital system doesn't align with GXP, it will fail the regulatory audit. Full stop. Your transformation stalls right there.
Makes perfect sense. Compliance first, then efficiency, and the technology leg of the PPT school.
That's the foundation, really. It means moving towards a cloud-first infrastructure, setting up robust platforms for data integration, and embedding future-ready stuff like AI and machine learning capabilities right from the start. You're not just upgrading, you're building the future lab, the future enterprise.
The sources actually lay out a pretty detailed timeline for how this should roll out. It looks like a very systematic, multi-phase roadmap. I guess the idea is to de-risk this huge investment by doing things in the right order.
Exactly. You start small, manage the risk. Phase 1, assessment and vision setting. That's the first 3 months. You define where you want to go, the future state, figure out the gaps you have now, and crucially, you establish that strong governance structure, that digital transformation office we talked about. It gets set up here.
Okay, so 3 months for assessment and vision. Then what's the blueprint phase?
That flows right into phase 2, strategy development, which takes months 4 through 6. This is where the heavy lifting happens. You codify the detailed 3 to 5 year strategy, define all the metrics, the financials, the tech stack. But then comes a really interesting part for managing risk.
Which is?
Phase 3, pilot implementation. This runs from month 7 to month 12.
Ah, the pilots.
Mm-hmm.
This feels like the critical prove-it stage, right?
Totally. It's all about picking just 2 or 3 manageable, high-impact projects. The goal isn't massive change yet. It's about demonstrating those crucial early wins. You need to validate that the tech actually works in your environment, and just as importantly, that the organization can adapt to the changes before you bet the farm. It's a practical proof of concept.
And those early wins must be vital for keeping the momentum going.
Absolutely vital. They justify further funding, they build internal belief. If those pilots show the value you expected, then you move to the big push. Phase 4, scaling and integration. That's months 13 to 24. You take the successful pilot blueprints and roll them out across the wider enterprise.
Making it the new standard operating procedure.
Right. And that leads naturally into the final ongoing stage, phase 5, optimize. Continuous improvement.
Now, to give you, our listener, a real sense of the upfront cash needed just to get this roadmap designed and the governance in place. So just phases 1 and 2, the documents detail that initial investment. The total comes out to $2,780,000.
$2.78 million, just for the planning and setup.
Yeah. And how that money is allocated is, well, it's revealing. Almost half of it, $1.2 million, is specifically for personnel. Project managers, yes, but heavily weighted towards those change management specialists.
And that tells you something fundamental, doesn't it? The biggest perceived risk isn't the software code, it's human resistance. They're effectively budgeting $1.2 million as a human adoption insurance policy to make sure people actually use the new systems.
That really highlights the why behind those numbers. Okay, so if we link this discipline roadmap back to the big technical hurdles, it seems designed to tackle that fragmentation issue. But, execution always runs into roadblocks. Let's dig into 3 critical challenges the sources highlight, the ones that often derail these pharma transformations.
Good idea. Let's start with the one everyone grumbles about, but it's especially tough in regulated industries, the weight of legacy systems.
Oh, yeah. These old systems, they're not just slow, are they? They cause massive problems. Nightmare maintenance, workflows that bog down critical R&D or clinical trials, huge security vulnerabilities, keeping CISOs awake at night. It must feel like trying to innovate at light speed while dragging an anchor.
That's a great way to put it. And the playbook offers a pretty clear, pragmatic solution. Look, ripping and replacing everything, it's usually too disruptive, costs potentially billions, and the risk is immense.
Right.
So instead, the focus is on a systematic assessment of those legacy systems, a phased migration plan, and this is key, adopting an API-first integration strategy.
API first. Can you break that down a bit? What does that mean practically?
Sure. An API, application programming interface, it's like a universal adapter, a standardized way for different software systems to talk to each other securely and reliably. An API-first strategy means whenever you build something new, you design it from the ground up to communicate via these well-defined APIs.
Oh.
This lets your valuable data trapped in those old legacy systems flow safely into your new cloud platforms without needing a complete risky overhaul of the old system's guts. It builds bridges, essentially.
And the payoff for doing that integration work properly, the sources mentioned, it's pretty significant.
It is. That systematic integration work, which, by the way, has its own budget detailed at $2,890,000, yields really powerful operational benefits. The documents promise a 70% improvement in data accessibility across the company. Imagine unlocking that data.
70% is huge. And there are financial returns, too.
Immediate ones. They project about $1.2 million in annual savings just from reducing manual processes, where people used to spend hours manually copying data or reconciling reports between systems that didn't talk. APIs automate that.
I have to push back slightly. $1.2 million saved annually sounds great. But given the notorious complexity of integrating old pharma systems, how realistic is that figure? Doesn't that often go over budget?
That's a fair question. That figure is directly tied to doing it the right way. The phased migration, the API strategy, that $2.89 million investment is really risk mitigation because the alternative. The documents estimate that a single, unplanned, forced system replacement often blows past $2 million per system. So this planned integration work actually saves money compared to the likely alternative down the road. It's disciplined spending.
Okay, that makes sense. Preventative investment.
Exactly. Now, moving beyond digging out of the past, we have to build for the future. That brings us to future-proofing and scalability. This is critical. In pharma, you're dealing with genomics, massive clinical trial data sets, AI. If your core architecture can't handle exponential data growth, your whole transformation initiative is going to hit a brick wall in, what, maybe 2 years.
So the design needs to anticipate tomorrow's, maybe even next decade's data demands, not just today's.
Absolutely. And the way you do that, according to the sources, is by embracing cloud-native design principles and specifically using a microservices architecture.
Cloud native and microservices. Let's unpack those two.
Okay. Cloud native means you build your applications specifically to take full advantage of the cloud's benefits. Things like elasticity, pay-as-you-go pricing, resilience. You're not just lifting and shifting old designs to the cloud, you're building for the cloud.
Yeah.
And microservices. That means breaking down big monolithic applications into smaller, independent, self-contained services. Each service does one thing well and communicates with others via APIs.
That sounds complex to manage, all those little pieces. Yeah. Why is breaking things down better?
It seems counterintuitive, but it delivers agility and resilience. If one small microservice has a problem or needs an update, it doesn't bring the whole giant application crashing down. You can update or scale individual pieces independently. Now, this does require significant investment. The budget here is $2,755,000. A lot of that goes into technologies like container orchestration platforms, with Kubernetes being the dominant one.
Kubernetes, I've heard that term.
Think of Kubernetes as the sophisticated air traffic control system for potentially thousands of these little microservice containers. It automates deployment, scaling, and management, making that complexity manageable and efficient.
And the payoff for that complexity investment is the scalability.
Precisely. The sources project this kind of architecture can achieve a 10x improvement in system capacity compared to older models.
10 times. And there are immediate cost benefits too, right?
Mm.
I saw something about infrastructure costs.
Yes, built right into that cloud-native approach. A projected 40% reduction in infrastructure costs through smarter use of cloud resources, auto-scaling, using the right services. This isn't just about saving money, though. This investment is absolutely non-negotiable because it lays the foundation for the real high-value stuff in pharma. The AML and IoT initiatives, future drug discovery, personalized medicine. It all depends on a scalable, robust data platform. Without it, that innovation just dies on the vine.
Okay, so we've tackled legacy systems and built for the future. But this leads to the third major challenge area, governance and performance measurement. You can spend all this money, build amazing tech, but if you can't measure success or steer the ship effectively, it's kind of pointless, isn't it? How do you actually know if you're winning?
Yeah, it is the million-dollar question, or rather the $17 million question here.
Right.
The source material outlines a very formal governance model. It centers around that Digital Transformation Office, the DTO we mentioned earlier. Clear roles, clear responsibilities, and continuous risk management baked in. Setting this up properly has a budget line item of $1,880,000.
And that DTO, it's not just another layer of management.
No, it's explicitly designed not to be. It's meant to be an empowered cross-functional team, like a SWAT team, with the authority to cut through the red tape and silos that usually bog down big projects like this. And the expected benefit is pretty striking. They project a 60% reduction in governance overhead, specifically through automating reporting and workflows within the governance process itself, making governance efficient.
Wow. Streamlining the oversight itself. And the measurement part, we talked about value realization.
Right. That requires building a comprehensive key performance indicator, or KPI, framework. It has to cover everything: financial returns, operational improvements like process speed, and strategic goals like accelerating research. And underpinning that is the investment in the core analytics platform itself, budgeted at $2,390,000.
So another significant chunk of change just for the measurement tools.
Because that analytics capability is the engine of value realization. It's what lets you move from relying on, say, backward-looking quarterly reports to making informed decisions based on near real-time data.
And the ultimate benefit there is speed, isn't it?
Exactly. That investment in analytics is projected to lead to a staggering 90% improvement in decision-making speed. When you have real-time insights at your fingertips, you can react faster, adjust course quicker.
And that speed translates directly to efficiency gains.
That's the link. Faster, better decisions driven by data are expected to drive a 25% improvement in overall operational efficiency. You're fundamentally changing how the business operates, making it smarter and faster, even with all the compliance constraints.
Okay, so let's pull this all together. We've walked through the roadmap, the PPT framework, the major challenges, and their solutions. What's the bottom line in terms of the total investment detailed in these sources?
Right. If you add up the specific budget lines for the core platform, the architecture work, the governance setup, the integration efforts, basically all the systematic improvements we've discussed across the key areas in the source material, the total program investment comes out to $17,160,000.
$17 million just for the foundational implementation framework,
Yeah.
addressing those key challenges. That's a serious commitment. But let me ask this. What potentially not fully captured in that $17 million? What's the biggest trap people might fall into, thinking that number covers everything?
That's a really important point. That $17 million is primarily for establishing the core digital platform, the governance, and tackling those specific known integration and scalability challenges. What it likely doesn't fully encompass are things like the ongoing day-to-day internal resource costs across all departments to support the change, or perhaps the full lifecycle costs of maintaining some of the non-core legacy systems that might still remain for a time. Those can definitely add up.
So there's still potential for budget creep if you're not careful.
There always is. However, the whole point of this rigorous, phased approach to the pilots, the API strategy is specifically designed to contain that risk much better than ad hoc approaches. And the projected returns suggest confidence in this structured model.
Let's talk about those returns. What's the expected ROI on this $17 million investment?
The projections are pretty compelling. The expected ROI is estimated between $15 million and $25 million annually. Annually, which leads to a projected payback period of just 12 to 24 months.
Wow. So if executed correctly, this pays for itself incredibly quickly.
That's the business case. Disciplined, structured execution, coupled with successful adoption, generates significant returns relatively fast.
Before we wrap up, let's just quickly reiterate those non-financial recommendations, because it sounds like they're the essential glue holding this whole expensive structure together.
Absolutely critical. The sources hammer this home. 3 key things. First, you must ensure unwavering, visible executive commitment, real sponsorship from the very top. It can't be delegated away. Second, you have to invest seriously, maybe even overinvest, in organizational change management. Driving adoption isn't an afterthought. It's core to the project's success. Training, communication, support.
Making sure people are willing and able to use the new tools.
Exactly. And third, implement continuous monitoring from day one. Build the platform, yes, but then measure its effectiveness relentlessly. Track those KPIs, understand how people are using the systems, and adjust continuously.
So the big takeaway seems to be that turning that digital vision into real lasting value, especially in pharma, needs incredible discipline. It's a systematic balancing act between moving fast and staying compliant.
That's it, precisely. And you know, the core benefit of all this systematic multi-million-dollar work, it isn't just about saving costs or making operations smoother, although those are important. The real strategic prize, according to the sources, is creating the foundational ability to significantly accelerate the reduction in time to market for new products.
By how much?
By a potential 20 to 30%, getting life-saving treatments to patients faster. That's the ultimate competitive advantage this enables.
That puts the whole investment in a different light. It's not just operational, it's fundamentally strategic for R&D success.
It absolutely is. So let me leave you and our listeners with a final thought. If achieving this kind of success demands such detailed, multi-million-dollar planning, governance, and execution just to get off the ground, what might be the single largest hidden risk that even this meticulous playbook can't fully eliminate? Think back to that 60% failure rate we started with. Where does the blame usually land, even with the best plans? It almost always points back to the human element, that dependence on human change adoption. If the people in the organization resist, misunderstand, or just don't embrace the new ways of working, that projected 12 to 24-month payback period, it evaporates instantly. That reliance on people successfully navigating change, that's the X factor that always needs constant vigilant attention no matter how good the plan looks on paper.